Rah Petherbridge.
And I'm George Alexander Thompson. It's lovely to be back.
It really is. It's been a hot minute.
It's been a weird summer because the summer has raced by. It's suddenly September. We've both been away.
We've been apart for a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
But we're back. We're talking this episode with my dear friend and poet Rowan James. And we're going to talk about our own weird brains.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, we're wired differently and that's absolutely okay.
We both have quite odd brains.
Navigating it is a freaking nightmare.
I think that's one of the things I've found hardest about not being around you this summer is because I've been on jobs where normally we would be working together.
Yeah.
And my crazy can feed through you and I can sort stuff out, but it's not happened like that and I've had to be dealing with it myself.
Oh, babe.
It's quite stressful.
Yeah, I lack a lot of motivation actually when I'm not around you. You really kind of like give me a kick up the arse and you just make me feel like I want to do things.
Well, we've been working very closely together forever, but also for like the last 2 years, like in each other's pockets.
We don't need each other anymore, really.
No, but I do love our collaboration. I think it's really important to stick with that. I just, it is odd going away on other jobs and being like, oh God, where's it? Like I've had to paint without you there. It's really stressful.
You're good at it though.
I'm all right at it, but it just, the science of it, I really rely on you a lot of the time.
Because I'm like, don't mix those things. They'll separate, George. Put that down.
I'm the worst for mixing
That's
a colour and then it
oil-based.
being the wrong colour and then everyone being like, where's the rest of the paint? And I'm like, oh, I mixed it all in one go. It's not what you're supposed to do.
So yeah, we're going to talk about how we manage to cope because that has been a long and meandering journey. Because let's face it, we used to have to work at a pace that was so insane. That was the only way we coped. But now you've put lists in place.
Yeah, I've started making lists. I don't know whether anyone else does this. I think I came up with it as like a world first. I write lists of things to do.
So recently, I'm a real major geek about like neurodivergency and stuff like that. And George, you are so symptomatic to ADHD. It's absolutely untrue.
I know, we had that conversation. I think we were on a bus somewhere and Rowan was like, I just want you to listen to all of these symptoms. And I was like, yep. Yep.
Shall we get them up, actually? That might help. Symptoms.
Yes, let's diagnose George's ADHD.
By the way, neither
public.
of us are even vaguely qualified to be doing anything like this.
Completely not. But the internet's a funny place,
Yeah,
and you can,
yeah.
I mean, you used it was the NHS website that you were looking at, wasn't it?
It was the NHS website. Let me actually get that up. And the DHM-5. The DHM-5 is the American manual, basically, to all mental health issues. So, like everything from antisocial personality disorder to ADHD to bipolar, everything is listed in there. But let's look at the NHS because we're in the United Kingdom, and the majority of our listeners are in Europe, so it might be just a little bit more relatable. Hold on, where are the fucking symptoms?
This is so unfair.
I don't like saying this, but it's
really
how you
important
cope with it.
But also,
is
it's
amazing.
really important to caveat this with it doesn't matter
No,
if your
it
brain
really
is different,
doesn't
and it's not. I think a lot of times when people are like, "Oh, you seem really ADHD," people take that as like a slander almost.
No, but it's actually like
and it's not. It's like being dyslexic. It's
you're
like
a remarkable person because of it.
Brain is different,
and you're the best fucker to have at a party because of it. You know.
Thanks.
Carelessness and lack of attention to detail.
I am the least attention to detail focused person I know. Like I really struggle with it.
Yeah, but this is why you're able to walk the fuck away. You're like, right, it's done. Put down your fucking brush. We're leaving. And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's using it to your advantage and then also putting people around you that have different skills so that you're both balancing each other out.
The next one is brilliant. Continually starting new tasks before finishing old ones.
That is me all over.
It's your flat.
It's literally my flat. It's like, we're going to do the living room. Wait, we should do the kitchen first. I was doing this yesterday. I was like, I need to tidy my art studio. So I was like, well, if I do the washing up, this doesn't make sense. I was like, if I do the washing up first, I will tidy my studio table better. It'll make more sense if I give myself
babe, I love you so much. And it's closely followed with poor organisational skills.
That's why I've had to start doing lists. And everyone I've ever worked with has been like, George, just write everything down on a list. And I'm like, oh, but then I have to find a pen and like I have to keep the list and like what? It's just a stressful thing to do.
Inability to focus or prioritize.
Sorry, what's that?
Continually losing or misplacing things. I mean, that's both of us.
I lost
Fucking
my
hell.
phone in a suitcase the other day because
You
I
lost
have,
it in the fireplace. Do you remember that?
and I lost it in the fireplace. Yeah, it's happened like a few times recently. I was packing to go away, and I was glued to my phone was glued to my hand because of Instagram. Thanks. And then I lost my phone for a good half hour, and then I was like, oh, I bet I put it in the suitcase, and I'd packed it. I just like folded up the pants, stuck it in the suitcase with my phone, and walked away.
It's brilliant. The next one is forgetfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going
mean,
to try and deny that one, and there's no point.
There's absolute
Anyone who knows me.
restlessness and edginess. You know, when we go into a job and people are like, "Oh, we just have to wait for the techies to come in. Do you mind just waiting for 2 hours?"
I can't do it. Yeah, I had this on a job the other day. They had all of the huge haulage trucks were clearing out a studio, and we had a little van for all the props and art materials and stuff. And they were like, "Oh, you're going to have to wait back at the line. Like it'll just be a couple of hours until they're all loaded up." And I was like, no, let's just carry it down. Like we'll just handball it past all the big lorries. Like I'm not stood here for 2 hours.
But you see, like that's why we're so good at our jobs. Because I suffer from most of this as well. But like, if there's nothing to do for 2 hours, we will find something to do.
It used to drive I used to sit watching TV with my grandmother, and my leg would just jitter. You know, restless leg syndrome thing.
Yeah.
It would drive her nuts. She was like, "Stop moving your foot," and I'm like,
"Give me something to do."
Can't. Like, what do you like? It's moving on its own. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, this is why like in particular, when I go to see my mum in Ireland, she does not allow you near mobile phones. So I'll have the Knights Move solitaire in front of me, you know, with the marbles.
Yeah, I love that.
And I will play it continuously. I have to have a jotter with me. I have to have
I've
pens.
never been able to complete that game. Can you do it?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
I really, like, we've always had one in the house, and I've always tried, and I'll cheat. I'll just be like, I'll put it down and be like, yay, did it. And I've never actually done it.
Oh, George, I'll tell you how to do it.
Could you?
I will. Difficult. This is both of us all over. Me more so, actually. Difficulty keeping quiet or speaking out of turn.
Oh.
It's my turn to speak.
Yeah. No, I have actively been trying to do better in this area of my life.
This is the origin of this fucking podcast.
Yeah, because we're just like chat. And I did, especially when you're on, like, particularly this big job that we did, we'll talk about more in a sec. We were with new people, we were going to the pub every night, and I was oversharing on such a massive level that I'd have to sit there and be like, no, George, don't tell that story, or just let 3 other people speak before you say something else. Like I do. It's difficult.
It's hard. And you know what?
You were an interrupter at school, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just like, oh, I'll do it. Oh, yeah. Terrible.
It's awful. Oh, yeah, this is followed with blurting out responses and often interrupting others. I mean,
constantly.
We're assholes.
Yeah.
Both of us.
I mean, I think Alex does a lot of work on the podcast so that he chops out the bits where we're just constantly interrupting us.
Mood swings, irritability and quick temper. You don't have that.
It's
internal.
But it's really, like, I do have a quick temper, and when it goes, it goes. But I work very hard to hide that one.
It's like when you're on the tube, you're like,
oh, I did the worst thing on the tube the other day. I felt so bad. I was going into Vauxhall and everyone was moving so fucking slowly, like this bunch of fucking suits everywhere, and I was like all painty. And I was getting so frustrated, and then someone just stopped right in front of me in the door onto the platform. And I was like, excuse me! And they jumped out of their fucking skin. And I turned around and it was this beautiful girl with like big pink fluffy headbands and like this little pink jumper and like a cute little backpack. And I was like, I've completely yelled at the wrong person. Like I was getting stressed at all these awful like yardy business people. And then I yelled at the lovely person. I felt terrible about it.
This is shortly followed with extreme impatience.
Oh yeah, that's the same story, isn't it?
This is our early 20s / our late 20s, taking risks in activities, often with little or no regard for personal safety or the safety of others. For example, driving dangerously. I mean, neither of us drive.
But that's the reason I don't drive.
We don't drive.
Yeah, I'm like, I know. My dad always said if you drove, it would be like Toad of Toad Hall. And I couldn't even be offended by it. I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I'd be like. Meep, meep.
It's like, yeah, but like that's kind of a rundown on ADHD. We're not psychologists. We can't diagnose ourselves, but it's just something to look at because then we can go on YouTube and go, how the fuck does everybody else cope with these particular set of symptoms?
But also, like I don't, it's funny, isn't it? Because I don't think when you have, they're called symptoms and you could just as easily call them personality types, but they are the things that make me extremely good at my job, but also that frustrate me about myself the most. And I think when you're talking about mental health, you have to also include the fact that it's, so many of those things are positives. Like I really enjoy working with dyslexic people because they think differently. And when you're trying to problem solve, if you've got someone with a slightly different brain to you, you can work things out quicker because people look at stuff in different angles. And it's fascinating. It really helps when you're creative.
Like all of those things are the things that I actually quite love about you. I think, like, as I said, I'm just a geek about this, but I think it is an inability your dopamine is never quite at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So you're always flitting from one thing to the other to try and get that hit of dopamine. That means you feel satiated in dopamine. It can mean that you have sleeping problems. You don't have sleeping problems.
No, I don't. That's the thing.
That's the thing. It doesn't,
well.
It's not like, it's just something that we're looking at. And it's like funny to look at, like it's funny to kind of look it up. Hold on, I'm going to look up my little set of symptoms, and loads of these like cross over. It's all a big spectrum. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I am to you. Mine's poor balance.
Oh yeah.
This is dyspraxia.
It's so difficult because the poor balance thing hits you so hard so often.
Sometimes it's fine.
Yeah.
And then other times it's
really
like
bad.
Like I'll be walking out of a job, like a professional job, and I will just fall flat on my face looking very drunk.
No, it was when you fell over in the supermarket and fucked your knees up, and you just
fell on both of my knees in little.
Yeah, just like the worst. I can't imagine how sore that is. It's horrible.
It's very painful. George came with me to A&E, and we did some sketches in A&E. It was quite fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was very, very painful. Lack of rhythm or dancing when doing aerobics. So lack of rhythm, I can't clap in time.
I can't either. When people, I dread the moment in a theatre where everyone's like clapping along to the song.
And I'm like,
we will rock you. I've never been able to do that.
No, I can't do it. Should we try it now? We will rock you.
No, missed it.
Wait, no, try it. Try it for real.
Okay.
We will rock you.
Wait, why is there a third clap?
Fucking hell. Okay, so we've demonstrated that one.
Rock you. Is there another one?
It's boom, cha, da boom, boom, cha. Is it? I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Oh, God. Clumsy gait or movement, difficulty changing directions, stopping and starting actions.
When we were working at the Unicorn Theatre, my favourite thing was, because I always arrived a little bit early, and I would sit on the fountains opposite the London Bridge train station, and then Rah would just sort of fall out of the station with the scooter and the big bag and the paint kit and just like rock around. And it was just, I loved it every morning. Just
Such a calamity.
Oh, there she is. It's really nice.
What's the next one? I'm just kind of going through it. Difficulty using tools, domestic implements, locks and keys. Now, I can use some very well. I avoid using drills.
I think if you haven't lost your key, you know how to use it.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
It's never there.
Yeah. And I tend to break things when I'm using them.
But I think that's why you like your fucking stupid multi-tool.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a hatchet job weapon that you can use for anything that gets it done.
And you probably wouldn't have noticed this, but when it comes to eating, I tend to only actually use a fork.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't use the knife at the same time.
But I think that's
goes
fair
all
enough.
over
Like,
the place.
most of the time you don't really need a knife. We got trained, like the cutlery training at my house was next level.
Wow.
It's like how to do different things.
We just ate the food.
Not allowed to, like.
Is that a breeding thing?
I think so. Your fork is never allowed to be the wrong way up. So even with peas, you had to like.
Wait, go back. There's a wrong way up for a fork.
Well, you're not allowed to scoop.
What?
You're not, it has to go down, and then with peas, you have to push them onto your fork with your knife, and then 4 at a time because you can't get more than that on a fucking fork.
Hell, did
not
you
allowed
grow,
to
like if I was an alien visiting you and we were speaking the same language, I'd be like, did you grow up in prison?
Yeah, similar.
Yeah.
Very, very posh prison.
Very, very posh prison. God,
like
I didn't.
The army.
Can you teach me all of this stuff? I know to eat from the outside in.
Oh my God, should we do I can't even say it. An etiquette episode?
Etiquette episode. Yeah, but I mean,
we
it's a
can
bit
go through all
dated
this.
now, or is it not? And I just haven't noticed.
Well, no, because I find it so ridiculous. Like occasionally I'll be in a restaurant and I'll see someone eating, and I will have a flash of that's not how you should hold your knife. And I'm like, God, George, like, why do you care? Like, it's literally like a trained into you thing. I find it very odd that people have rules about stuff like that.
It's strange. Next one is difficulty dressing and grooming activities such as putting on makeup, shaving, doing hair, fastening clothes, tying shoelaces. This works to my advantage. I am bad with hair, but for that reason, I can just go back home, pin, and it looks fine.
And your makeup is always on point. You're very good at makeup.
I can't do the line on top without it going everywhere. So I just do really easy things.
Yeah.
And like I've got techniques that I've learned from painting that I apply to putting on lipstick.
But that's what's nice about it is that it suits your style, and you don't. If you can't do the eyeliner thing, I stopped wearing eyeliner because there's no point. Because it goes, my eyelid goes so far into the back of my skull that it just goes everywhere.
You have beautiful eyes, by the way. If you haven't seen Georgie, he's got fucking gorgeous eyes. Me getting dressed, we could make a slapstick comedy sketch out of that.
Well, I have done on so many occasions.
Like,
I've filmed you trying to get out of a jumper.
Or trying to put a jacket on.
Yeah, it's my favourite thing. It's so gorgeous.
It's like trying to find the armholes, trying to do buttons. Like I'll often leave with things inside out or back to front. But to be honest, that suits my style because my style is an absolute calamity.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I like a pair of dungarees and a nice jacket because it's quite easy. Like, I think too much faff is stressful.
No, fuck that. Fuck buttons. Fuck tying shoelaces. Never been able to do it. Let's move on. The next one has its own section, which I don't understand. It's poorly established hand dominance. I do have that. I can use my left or right hand. I mostly write with my right. But it's really handy being left-handed in our job because sometimes your right arm just wants to drop off.
Yeah.
So, like, you use your left hand to do the rolling and it's fine. Or use
both
hands.
I can't do I can lift with my left arm, but I can't paint or draw.
Can I add that Rowan James is also dyspraxic, and we went on a little holiday to Bournemouth together, which is where we did the interview that is in this episode. 2 dyspraxics trying to live together. It was hysterical. There was shit everywhere.
Yeah.
And like, we're quite neat people, but there was shit everywhere. And trying to leave the house, he was like, you take the key. And I was like, you take the key. It was like, it was a hysterical battle. And then if we went out for a couple of pints, usually I hang on to somebody if I've had a couple of pints, but we were both.
You were both like that because he couldn't hang on to you.
Yeah. So we were like both like slugging up the street. It was fucking brilliant. I love that
I got
man
a really
so much.
cute message from the two of you where you'd had one beer, but everyone thought you were fucking wasted because you were just like not really able to walk very well.
Rowan, I remember it's actually really annoying. He was up in Edinburgh and he was like, I saw him walking down the street. He did this amazing show. We'll talk about it in his interview. And he was really upset and he was like, Rah, I couldn't get served at the bar. They thought I was drunk. And I was like,
oh no.
Oh, like people need to open their eyes and actually talk to somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
And engage with it because, it's annoying. But yeah, I very quickly look very pissed, which is
No, but also
hysterical.
like that is such an important thing, isn't it? Especially for like a myriad of different disabilities, is that not all of them are visible and not all of them look the way you would perceive them to look. And also, sometimes people do look drunk when they're not, but a short conversation with someone will sort that out. And if you're so busy working at a bar that you can't be bothered to find out who your customers are, you shouldn't be working on the bar.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to tell the difference between neurodivergence and drunkenness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Speech and language may continuously repeat themselves, and some people with dyspraxia have difficulty organising the content and sequence of their language. You know, when I'm trying to tell a story, and I'm like, there was a field and Jimmy was there, and over in New Zealand there was a shop, and like it's all
a bit higgledy-piggledy.
Yeah.
But then also, like, I think I don't know whether it's a creative thing. I definitely repeat myself. Like, I'll definitely tell the same story over and over again.
Everyone loves your stories, George, though.
No, I know, but not when they've heard them 4 times. Or like, poor Ali's listened to me with 3 different sets of people and I've had the same conversation with all of them. He's like, oh.
So this is one that applies to me. I'm skipping one that don't apply to me because it's harder to talk about. This is one that Alex, our producer, loves. Speech may have uncontrolled pitch, volume and rate. Alex, does that apply to me? No. Thanks.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I like it on jobs when you've got your headphones on and then you're trying to tell someone something and your volume control just goes way out of the way.
But without
brilliant.
the headphones on, I can't focus.
Yeah.
Because if there's too much
There's too
noise
many
around
noises
me, I
around, it
just become
doesn't-
really overwhelmed and I'm like, I'm going to go and cry in the toilet now.
Whereas I'm the opposite. Like, I find silence very, very uncomfortable. And so if I'm on my own in the flat, I either have to have the TV or the music on. And then most of the time I'll be talking to myself because I can't cope with just nothing.
Here's the bit about perception. Difficulty in distinguishing sounds from background sounds to noise. So like a tendency to be oversensitive to noise. So like all of it's on the same level in my head.
Did you see that thing? I sent you an advert on Instagram when you were back on Instagram about loops.
Loops.
It was an advert for this thing called Loops.
Yeah.
And
the thing, earbuds.
And this
I've
autistic girl was talking about them online. And she can't cope with background noise very well. And it's just like a metal hoop that you put in your ear.
And it's kind of cool looking.
Looks really cool. It looks like
God,
piercing.
I need to put that down,
and
actually.
It gets rid of all the background noise. So if you're in a bar, it takes out all of the chatter and you can just talk to your mate.
God, I need to get them.
And I think a lot of our listeners would probably benefit from them as well. So
like we're all on a similar kind of, like, loads of us suffer in the pub because we all get rendered deaf.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
you've had this for years with parties. You're like, I don't like going to big parties because it's too many voices. So let's get you some.
Let's do it.
And then get sponsored by them.
If
we'll
you
get
out
you
there
some and
listening,
then we'll do a little that's our homework. We can do a little what's it called? Not a preview. A review.
A review.
A
yeah,
review.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
This one is a bit of a sad one. And it does make me sad. And it got worse after I had Phoenix. Oversensitive to touch, can dislike being touched or have an aversion to tight clothing or tactile people.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't fucking touch me.
Don't do that.
Don't touch me.
Yeah.
And my clothing has to be very specific. There has to be a layer of tight with a very loose layer over it. And nothing can touch my neck really too much. And
Ali and I have just finished watching, I mean, we did it in like a day and a half, the new series, so season 5 of Sex Education on Netflix.
Oh, have you started watching it?
Finished it.
I thought it was 3.
I watched it yesterday, guys.
He's wrong.
I might be wrong. It might be season 3, but also watch season 5 because it's specific to what I'm about to say. There is a non-binary character who is made by one of the teachers to change what they're wearing, and they're made to wear tighter fitting clothes. And it's really upsetting to the character because obviously when your body and your, all of...
When you're not comfortable
when you're not comfortable with
chest
what
or
you're
with
wearing,
hips or waist or whatever, you don't want form-fitting clothes.
Yeah. I've always worn baggy clothes and I've swung in and out of wearing sort of slightly tighter or slightly baggier clothes.
George, you corset yourself sometimes.
Yeah, but isn't that weird? Is that I'm very comfortable in really baggy clothes, and if I'm not in baggy clothes, I have to be in a fucking corset.
Yeah, you look.
It's one extreme or the other. It's like a tight, like I don't, I feel a bit weird sometimes.
Right. Anyway, little sense of time, speed, distance, or weight leading to difficulties driving or cooking.
Yeah.
I mean,
you've cooked some of the most filthy food I've ever eaten.
It's fucking weird. It's a little bit burnt, and there's chicken on one side and the corn is on the other. So you're just gonna have to mix it up.
That mushroom stroganoff you did though was amazing.
Yeah, because I managed to follow a recipe for once in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speed through the next one. A little sense of direction, difficulty distinguishing right from left. I mean, that's most people I know. So like, yeah, if you don't know right from left, Zoe Belton put it best. She was just like, just point.
Yeah, or write it on the back of your hand. Like, it doesn't really matter that way.
This is something that most people that we work with. It's learning, thought and memory. I've got shit memory, poor short-term memory, can forget and lose things, unfocused, erratic, can be considered messy and cluttered. I'm getting better.
You're getting better at that, but it all still applies. Same to me.
Come on, my house is it's like practically minimalist now.
It's minimalist for us. Mary Kondo would go to town.
She's like, what is this dismembered doll?
What the fuck is this?
Why do you need this?
Do you know what I mean? And that's exactly where I'm at with the flat at the moment, because I'm doing so well throwing stuff out. But if you come round, it's still got a lot of stuff in it.
I mean, I think you're doing great.
Thanks.
I'm really proud of you.
I'm doing better.
I love this one. Slow to finish a task. May daydream or wander about aimlessly.
Yeah, I mean, that's both of us, isn't it? Like,
God, we're absolute assholes, aren't we? We'll just be like, oh my God, there's poppies outside. We have to go and look in that field. And like, we'll be meant to be inside, like doing something in a property, and we'll be out frolicking with the poppies.
But then I think...
Just for a minute.
Well, do you know what? Like, I think left to our own devices, that's what we're like. I think when we're working with or for other people.
The pressure of that
It's not even pressure. You sort of get less distracted so easily. Whereas when we're just the two of us, it definitely gets really lackadaisical.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna keep going. So this one is all about emotion and behaviour. So difficulty to listen to people, especially in large groups. We've covered that. Difficulty picking up on non-verbal signals. Oh my God. So like, I don't understand sarcasm. That's a big old problem.
This is really funny because this is one that you're really bad at, but I'm very good at.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I can meet someone, not speak any of their language, and completely communicate with them. Because you just you make faces, point, draw, whatever.
See, this is where you back me up an awful lot, because I won't pick up on the nuances of a situation. I remember once we were in a pub and you went out to have a cigarette and I followed you out and you were like, those people are being absolute assholes. And I was completely ignorant to the whole thing. But if I went back over the conversation, like when you told me it, I was like, I'm not going to mention anyone or anything like that. This was years ago. But yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, how did I miss that? And like, it's actually ended up with me being in bad relationships or something like things like that, because I can be quite literal with understanding things. And that's something that I'm working with my therapist, Joanna Cole, to understand the nuances of conversation and body language, so I can spot red flags or I can spot green flags or I can understand what somebody is actually like beyond the literal conversation. I'm trying to learn that.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous. It can be dangerous.
It can be dangerous. It can be really frustrating. I hate to a job that I had before, sort of going full-time art department. I was working in events and I had to be on the phone a lot of the time. And I really, really struggle not being able to see people's gestures or facial expressions, because I can't really latch into what they're saying.
Yeah.
And so I find being on the phone, I find WhatsApp very frustrating. We had that hysterical one this morning. You were like, shall I get some rum and ginger ale? And I was like, it's ginger beer. And you were like, I quite like ginger ale though. And I was like, I don't think you know what it is. And
it just sounded like a shade conversation.
Yeah, like if you had two people reading it who didn't know each other, it would have been very, very rude. And I loved that we sort of, it's about knowing someone well enough to know how they communicate, and then being kind to sort of kind of knowing that you have to give certain people different things based on what their needs are.
Yeah, very, very much so. But like, to be honest, it's kind of, that particular trait can really work in our favour in a work situation, because I don't get stressed out by assholes as quickly as everyone else.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm like, oh, they're great, because they're actually coming in and being really sarky and shady. And I'm like, but they offered everyone coffee. And, you know, it's like, it's very rare that I will get pissed off. Remember that wood graining job and I got pissed off?
Oh, yeah, that one time. But that was not your fault.
No. And I just spoke very sharply to somebody. I think I was like, you get to critique me after this is finished.
Yeah. I think, it was so funny, because then you turned around to me and you were like, oh my God, was I really rude? And I was like, no, that was an appropriate level of rude.
Yeah, but like that. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Emotions and as a result of difficulties experienced, I get stressed, depressed and anxious, have difficulty sleeping, prone to low self-esteem, emotional outbursts, phobias, fears, obsessions, compulsions and addictive behaviour. This is fine. This is all stuff that I go through with my therapist. And to be honest, obsessions is the reason why I'm here. Because I'm obsessed with my camera. I'm obsessed with painting.
Oh, well, we both have that. I mean, that's part of the podcast. You know, the favourite thing is a real, I got obsessed with a crayon the other day. Like,
obsessed. Yeah, but you sound exaggerated. No. Like, we spend hours with this thing.
No, it distracted me for a full hour that I should have been working. I was on Google trying to track down this pencil, and then it snapped in half. I got really upset. Then I found my sharpener and sharpened it. I've got it in my bag. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I want to see it. We're having an adjacent favourite thing moment. Can I just
talking about being distracted, and I'm rummaging in my bag like a lunatic.
My favourite thing at the moment has gone back to being Sims 4, because I'm going through a difficult family time at the minute. And
describe that pencil to the podcast listeners.
Okay, so at a glance, it looks like an ordinary pencil. It's navy and it has gold writing saying KOH-I-NOOR.
I think it's pronounced Kohinoor.
Kohinoor Hardmuth Mondaloo. Okay, and it's sharpened really nicely by an artist. You know, that's with a shaving pen. No one uses
with a knife,
parer.
Yeah.
But you call them sharpeners. We call them parers.
Parers.
Parers. Don't know what accent
I
you
did
use.
some really nice drawings with this
Okay. So it's quite waxy.
Yeah, I like a waxy crayon at the moment.
When you go light, you get lovely texture of the page. When you go heavy, it gives a really thick. Okay, it's like a pastel meets a crayon.
Yeah. It's like a wax pastel meets a crayon, and I'm completely obsessed with it.
And it's like a pencil as well. So
and now I
good.
just need to be able to justify sending the £65
Fuck
that it is
off.
for a set of them.
What? How many do you get?
I think you get like 30.
You've
Which
been
is
working a lot.
fine.
Treat yourself.
Yeah, I deserve them.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah.
Being distracted.
But like, so what were we saying? Oh yeah, prone
I
to
love that so much. Being prone to distractions and getting obsessed with stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So like, that's a rough rundown of dyspraxia. We did a rough rundown of ADHD. We're both symptomatic of these things. It's nice to look at it. It's nice to look at how the network deals with it. But at the end of the day, it's what makes us fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I think also it's really useful to look at stuff like that and go, that's what makes me good at this. That's what makes an artist. It
doesn't make an artist. It can drive.
It can drive an artist, but like, art, I do think artists need to be obsessive. Like I do think you have to want to be pushing something forward all the time. Like there's so many elements to all of those things that make creativity possible because they drive it forward. The inquisitivity.
Yeah, that's totally a word.
Is that a word?
Why not?
Inquisitiveness. Inquisitivity is much nicer than inquisitiveness.
I mean, like the short attention span, always looking for things of interest. That's something that we both have, and it's like, oh my God, we'll find beauty in every situation that we're in. You put us in a waiting room, we will find something that's beautiful there. If it's a water stain on the wall, or
that's the nice thing about being a scenic artist, is that you can see the dirtiest, rustiest, moldiest piece of crap, and you go, "Oh, that's stunning.
Inspiring.
It's beautiful. I'm in love with that mold."
So that's our little segment on how our brains work and how it's just absolutely fine.
I think that's really nice. That's a good segment. I like it.
Our teachers didn't like it. I felt quite stupid in school, or like a disappointment. Yeah. Or I could do better. But like in my adult life, I'm fucking nailing it. It's fine.
I think that is, and to bring it back to the sort of education thing, is that it's so frustrating that so many people that I know had a really shit time at school because they weren't really understood. And I do think that the education system is getting better and more responsive to people's individual needs, but you just can't teach everyone in the same way. People need different things. People have different response mechanisms. Mm-hmm. People have different ways of memorizing stuff. And I think that's, like Al's nieces and nephews all seem much more kind of in tune to an education style that is getting better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think a lot of work.
School for Phoenix is better than it was for me.
Yeah. So let's do some news. What is your news?
My news. So I want to
pause for effect.
I want to keep it in relation to my coping mechanisms. I use, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, I use the game Sims 4 an awful lot to help organize my house, mm-hmm. to know how many things that I might need, to kind of experiment with dress styles or hairstyles. It's such a good game for understanding relationships as well. And, for instance, things like in The Sims 4, you can have a house with 5 people in it. When you have a house with 5 people in it, it's very hard to manage everybody's needs. And realizing that from moving from a big house when I was in my marriage to a house with just me and Phoenix, I'm realizing that looking after my own needs, both in The Sims and in real life, is a lot easier. And I've got time to actually relax and indulge a hobby. I've got a piano now and I'm getting better, which is great. And The Sims is kind of helping inform me on that. Also for my birthday, Elliot got me Dublin Monopoly and it's great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And we play the short version and Phoenix can now play. And
I
it's
love
helping
that
him count.
photo of him playing Monopoly with Elliot. That was so cute.
It's really cute, isn't it?
Really, really lovely.
Elliot's a gorgeous friend of mine. He was an actor and he's now a mental health nurse. He's brilliant, so brilliant, and understands mental health stuff so well. We geek out about it together. It's quite fun.
Yeah, nice.
And leading on to that, Elliot. So for my birthday, me and Elliot and Phoenix went to the Duck and Waffle. And then we went to see Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat with
amazing.
Jason Donovan and it doesn't matter. Jason Donovan was in it.
That's
And
fucking awesome.
He's fucking gorgeous as well.
That's so cute.
I mean, he must be like 103 now, but
That's
was
what I was
gorgeous.
thinking. I thought he was in it like a while ago.
No, he was like, he is. He played Pharaoh, and Alexandra Burke was the compere, the host. You know, way back many centuries ago. Yeah, that woman. And anyway, the Duck and Waffle was gorgeous. Phoenix loved the lift. It's got a really big lift.
So
just Google the Duck and Waffle.
It's great.
The view is amazing. It's a very once a year kind of place because it is a bit spenny. But then we went to Joseph and it was so nice. I just looked at Phoenix through the whole thing.
I can't imagine that he must have loved it.
Yeah, and he was just standing and staring and jumping up and down and like really enjoying it. And then I asked him what his favourite bit was, and he was like the singing and dancing at the end, because I don't know if you've seen Joseph. It's mostly the reprise.
No.
It's like basically there's the songs, there's they go all over the world with calypso to French music. It makes no sense, and it's wonderful and it's very colourful. But at the end, they just kind of do a summary of the whole thing, and everybody comes out for a clap, and like it's just a mad sing along. And Phoenix was just.
Oh, that's great.
It was so beautiful. And
I love going to theatre with him because I end up watching him, not the show.
Yeah!
Because like his reactions to stuff are so like, that's what theatre should be about. And that's like, it's so special.
It's really lovely. What's your news?
So my news, to keep it kind of in line with what we've been talking about, my news is things that I've been trying to get better at, like actively for the sake of my mental health. So I did a show before I went away in the summer for the East London Shakespeare Festival.
Mm-hmm.
So I designed the set and the costume for their Midsummer Night's Dream.
Congratulations.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
But fuck, I've never done anything like that on my own before. And I was in charge of the budget and buying everything and sourcing everything and making everything and doing all of this stuff. And I'm not my skill set. So I told them, yes, absolutely, totally fine doing it. And then I was like, shit, trying really hard to...
Did you end up spending loads of your own money?
I spent a bit of my own money, but only on the add-ons at the end. So like all the jewellery. And I've just said to them, look, I'm going to keep all the jewellery because I've paid for it. It's my jewellery. But I actually went into it very fearful that I wouldn't be able to keep up with it, and actually did a very good job just by being super organised and having a boring spreadsheet and logging everything in and putting receipts in one place. And I was like,
well done.
I was good at it. And
that's
I nailed it.
That's the stuff I enjoy now that I'm on top of it.
Yeah, and I think that's so news from that is trying to move that forward into actual life and being a bit more responsible with moving money here, buying premium bonds, putting money in savings accounts.
We've talked about money previously in the podcast.
Yeah.
And we're both shit with it.
We're both shit with it, but getting better. Yeah. And so that's part of my news. The job that we did for 5 weeks in Devon, they had an outdoor swimming pool. And
oh my God, George, is that why you're so skinny?
Oh, like wasting away. Yeah, I was getting up at 6:30 every morning and going for a swim before work.
Shut up.
And then the next job I went on, we were staying in a hotel and they had a swimming pool. So I got to carry it on there.
Well done.
And then I went swimming yesterday morning in Camberwell.
Okay.
It was so busy and the lanes were full and everyone was really slow.
Gross.
Because of COVID, they're booking up the lanes and it all got a bit stressful. So this morning I went for a 5K run and I'm just getting back on the exercise train, I think, a little bit. That's
really great, George. And it shows as well. You're glowing.
Thank you.
Oh, lovely.
So that's a bit of my news, is trying to keep mentally healthy by doing a bit more exercise. And then, the other one, I've got my notebook in front of me because I write lists now.
He does lists.
Is I'm still trying to, this has been like ongoing since the inception of the podcast, but I'm trying to keep the house tidier. And part of this is a move to the Create 18 Studios.
Yeah, well done.
I've taken a desk there so I can move all of my art supplies and studio out of the house into a designated art creation space. Is that not a
piece of news for the next episode, though, you being at Create 180?
Yeah, I guess so. But the decluttering the house thing.
Decluttering the house, it's really funny because you sent me a picture going, I'm decluttering. And it was basically you surrounded by boxes and clutter. And I was like, oh, George, what's happening there?
Well, no, I'm pulling it all out, getting rid of some of it. and then putting most of it back where it was.
I love you so deeply.
It's obscene.
You know,
And-
if I was there, you'd be crying.
Oh my God, that's why I don't invite you around to help anymore.
Oh, damn you.
But even like I said to Al yesterday, because I was doing it yesterday, and Al was like, shall I get up and help? And I was like, no, I could feel myself getting a bit stressed out by it. So I just sort of chucked a bunch of stuff out. It feels good. But also I really like my stuff.
Test. This is also a test. This is what it sounds like when we test Rowan say something.
Hello.
Hello. So, I'm on holiday here. We've come down to Bournemouth, and coincidentally, it's the Bournemouth Emerging Arts Fringe. I'm with my very old friend, artist Rowan James. Hello, Rowan.
Hello, how are you?
I'm pretty good. We've just had 2 days down here. Rowan, tell us a little bit about yourself, why don't you?
So I live in Bristol. I work as a freelance artist. My art came out of my doing performance poetry, or that Mikey Talkie thing, as you used to call it.
Mikey Talkie thing, yeah. Now, me and Rowan met down in Ipswich. There was quite a boisterous art scene when we were there at McGinty's, and then you went on to do shows like Spaz and Easy For You To Say. Tell us a bit about those shows.
Well, Spaz is not a show. Spaz is just one poem. But I've done a show called Deaf Eye, and I've done a show called Easy For You To Say. Easy For You To Say was back in 2015. It's a long time ago. It's hard to remember. But it was a show about labels. It was my first show. It was all right. I've got that complete artist thing where it's like, nothing's ever really going to be good enough. It's like 2 bits of work that I'm proud of in my life. But Deaf Eye is actually probably one of the shows that I am proud of that came after Easy For You To Say, which was a ensemble piece with me, a dancer, and a deaf rapper. So it was looking at the experience of disability, contrasting it with using contrasting art forms. So you had a physical art form in dance, a physical language in sign rhyming, I guess, sign poetry, and then a linguistic art in poetry. So it's kind of a mashup of those 3 things.
Amazing. It's nice when worlds collide.
Yeah.
And something that I find really, really admirable about you is that you managed to figure out your way around funding. I've recently been turned down for the Develop Your Creative Practice. Can you give me any tips of how you seem to manage to get the arts funding? It's like, wow.
I don't know. I've been pretty lucky, but then there's loads that I haven't got. I don't know, I didn't have a clue, and I think it was 2017. I just was like, I've just got to get my head around this. And I'd done 15 to 20 applications that year. And then I got 2 of them that weren't even very good. They were all right, but they weren't. And then the next year,
15 to 20 and then to get 2. Okay, that's good for me to stick in my head.
But it's like you got to work on that. It is almost like a 1 in 10 sort of ratio you've got to work on, I think, as an artist for applications. Or something like that. It's not much. You've got to do a lot more that you get. But I think in 2018 I got a little role. And that's another thing. I mean, I think sometimes you can apply for things because it starts to become in your job applying for things, and then some opportunities, and then you get them all at once, and then it gets really messy.
Fucking hell. But that's something that a previous interviewee, Carrie Fransman, said to us, is she got the Develop Your Creative Practice and then she had to start paying tax.
All right.
Because it just kind of messes everything up and you're not used to it. And then like you have to manage all of that as well as being an artist. You know what I mean?
I mean, she must have been doing pretty well.
You know what I mean? On top of your other earnings as well, though. Because we always have a poetry moment, I would love to talk to you a little bit about your poetry and maybe hear a poem. If you have a poem, dear Rowan James, please. Maybe.
Okay. Oh, God.
Please bear in mind that it's a beautiful sunny morning in Bournemouth.
At 8 o'clock in the morning. And it was my turn to have a hangover.
Hungover. So he's a bit like, I had to massage his brain before we started because Rowan has a hangover. So I'm asking him to access your intellect with dehydrated brains.
Oh my God, what poem do you want to hear? You got to tell me.
I don't know if you got a short one.
Oh God. All right. Can I have a drum roll? Disabled, unstable labels hanging from my navel with a locket around my neck with a list of what I can't do and a shorter one of what I'm able. A gesture and a smile doing the job of a Babel. Because is it a platform on stilts or is it actually a table? And if one of those legs was broken, will it still fall under the same label? Because every utensil has to have a label, whether it's a serving spoon or actually a ladle. Holler at the man whose life is lived, trying to strain his pasta, surrounded by colanders, looking for a sieve.
Well done. He got through it.
That was hard.
That was amazing.
I think for poems, especially because like you edit them and a lot, and then when you haven't done them for like 5 years,
you forget the edit.
You forget the edits, and then when you sort of remember a hybrid version that you have to try and put back together as you're doing it.
Do you write your poems down?
Not really.
Okay, I do, but they're all on little tiny bits of paper all over the place. And it's like, yeah. I'm quite impressed.
I mean, I have got them written down, but I've never really. I always composed and memorised them in my head mainly. So
you're maybe a little bit more academic than me, though. And actually,
I don't know if that's academia.
Well, you know,
that's just a strange.
You've got a good storage system.
I think it's just really bad handwriting, so I had to learn another way.
Yeah, my handwriting's not my strong point, but I think that's something for me as an artist. I really struggle with storage and organisation. Yeah. Now I know you're dyspraxic as well, so we both like. By the way, we've had a fucking glorious holiday. Like 2 dyspraxic people trying to leave a flat to go out and like remembering their keys, their masks, like the keys. What a fiasco! I
mean, I've already lost my house keys trying to look after these keys.
It's like looking after a child, looking after the keys on this holiday. It's been insane.
I mean, I wish we had your child here to keep things safe. We could just give him a little safety bag.
Yeah, it's been quite funny anyway. But like, yeah, we're a bit of a fiasco, me and Rowan, but we've been friends for 10 years now.
10 years.
That's flown by, hasn't it?
It has.
But you were teaching in the college that I did a foundation fucking art course in.
Yeah, that's not how we met. We'd already met before that.
Was that in McGinty's?
Yeah.
McGinty's was a legendary bar run by a woman called Veronica. It was an Irish bar. And it had the Blue Room, it had all these gigging rooms. And it was just always full of music.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about yesterday, there was definitely a couple of years when that place was legendary, like on a Friday night, just absolutely pumping.
Yeah, heaved 4 deep at the bar.
4 deep, heaving.
It was, I loved that time there. That was probably the
Caddigood Garden smoking area, that was the king, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was great.
Barnes.
But, like, I don't know, I've not been to Ipswich now in a while, but when I go back now, I have to go to the Shamrock, our friend Leo's bar, because it's just perfect.
I wish it was called Leo's bar.
I know, it'd be nice. He'd love that. I've got a poem. Rowan, do you want to hear my poem?
Yeah.
I have to write them down and read them, otherwise I don't have any confidence. But you should see Rowan when he's doing a poem, he's got a swagger to him. Like, Google Rowan James, there's probably videos online. Like, you're very cool and confident. I feel like I turn inside out when I'm reading poetry.
Yeah.
So here goes. This one's called Fluicide. I'm a painter and sometimes I paint outside. And when I paint outside in particular, insects reach their demise by planting their thread-sized feet on my wet canvas. Was this just a mishap of attraction, or had they just had enough? End. It's a sad one, Rowan.
That reminds me, once I was at Latitude and I wore this really nice, like, white linen, shirt.
Yeah.
Really nice. And, like, the
Did you look like the man from Del Monte?
The bugs were just like... I looked like Barney from The Simpsons. I was like, flies going around my hair. And everyone was like, it's my jacket. But no.
Oh, yeah, because Latitude was in Suffolk, wasn't it? Yeah, so you probably frequented it quite a bit.
In the early days.
Let's have a little chat about Bournemouth Emerging Arts.
Yes, this was a coincidence.
Yeah, we just arrived down and Rowan was like, hey, there's a Fringe Festival. And I was like, shut the front door. I haven't been to a festival in 7 years.
I think the first theatre-y thing for...
Yeah, so we went to see something called Prime Cuts, which is showcasing the very best of emerging talent from Bournemouth. Obviously, since the Panny D, all of these artists have emerged.
And moved
to London. But they came back, and I don't know, I'm going to pick one of my highlights, which was probably Josh Ward. Josh is an actor and a neurodivergent artist and proud member of Extraordinary Bodies, Young Artists. He did a show which is just all about him. It was called Being Josh, a scratch show, and it was just very relatable about the anxiety around the pandemic and I want my old life back. He must have said that about 17 times and I was like, I want my old life back. But I was just generally really impressed by Josh. Do you have any special picks from the scratch?
I mean, the Rappy one was tight, wasn't it?
Actually, yeah. What was his name?
Nick Mumford.
And he's London-based now, yeah.
Yeah, that was tight.
That was fucking cool, actually, yeah.
Nice. I mean, it's really hard with a scratch because obviously some people have got a bit of something quite polished and some people are trying something out and, you know, it's hard to judge it. But, like, that was a really nice, strong 5 minutes of performance.
It was awesome. What do you have to say about Everybody Knows Judy by Is it Harry Drake?
Awful. Like, I don't know. It's hard. That's what I was saying about a scratch show. It's hard to judge because, like, you know, he might just being selfish and thinking, actually, it's a scratch show. I'm going on tour. I'm going to practice the bit that I really need to practice and do it. But for an audience, there wasn't a lot, I felt, in the way of connection and offer of what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to hear Judy speak for so long, though.
So basically what it was, you haven't heard of Tom, but yeah, it reminded me of an artist from Bristol, but it was like he does these things where he has these voiceovers he had Judy's voiceover, this guy, Harry Drain. He was doing lip syncing to basically Judy Garland talking about her life for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was quite a yes, it was a long time.
I mean, the lip syncing, don't get me wrong.
It was very good.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah.
I don't know. This is the thing with scratches. It's like, it's people testing it out, and the audience need to be this leads on very nicely to Hazel Mail, and her show is called To Be Human. I really connected with a lot of stuff she said, but in particular about being a parent, being the parent you want or you needed, she said. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, I really needed to hear that. But at one point she lost her lines and the audience were just so supportive and like, we're here, don't worry. And that,
I mean, that's horrible. I think that happened to me when I took my show back to Ipswich, and it was like, and I think because it was Ipswich, I just wanted to smash it, and I was like, loads of people there, and I'd just done this amazing show at the Junction. I kind of wish I could have swapped them round. I don't. I just wish I hadn't. And I just went blank, and it just was really awful. Like, it's one of those things with showing, like, we'd had tech issues before the show, and it just frazzled all my brain, and I just went blank. And it's only happened to me like twice in my life, I think, performing. Once at another poetry gig. Well, they always say in poetry you're like 2 bad gigs from quitting. And I think that'll happen to me in about 2014. And it's never been the same again.
Really? Because I'm about to start doing poetry performance. I'm fucking shitting a brick.
Just read it. Don't do what I do.
Like, close your eyes and, like...
Try and remember, like... Hecticness. But I think we should talk about Jasmine as well, Armstrong, because she was the first one.
What was the name of her show?
It's called A Phone Call, but she just done like a performance poetry piece. But I mean, it's quite interesting because obviously what I do with mixing poetry and theatre, it's like I really liked how she was writing for the stage, and she and a lot of her poetry was quite simple, but she knew that and she owned it, and she then and it was really good for an audience. I thought it's one of those things where you go as like when it's something that's quite close to what you do, and you're just like, oh, I wish I could. I don't want to be patronising, but I really want to go up and like say, have you thought about like, because like things that I think I've learned like from doing it, like it's really good when you disguise the poem more and like go into chat that is the poem, but it doesn't feel like the poem.
Yeah.
And I think she was so close to really getting that in her performance. And I think also it was quite hard because they were all doing it in the round. I don't know if they'd ever rehearsed it in the round. And I think particularly in the round, you kind of need to block it. You kind of, even if it's not tightly blocked, you kind of need to think, well, I'm going to do this bit over here and have that in your mind, or it can become a little bit...
Well, we need to maybe talk a little bit about Boscom Arts Depot, because we were really surprised when we went in.
Beautiful.
It was this scaff mini theatre built in an old department store.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. It was very like homemade but well done. It was a lovely design.
It was well done. Like they basically just made an auditorium out of scaff that surprisingly worked.
It worked really well. It was accessible, and it was just it was nice to sit in, and everything felt very relaxed, and we felt very welcomed. Like we came to Bournemouth on a whim.
Yeah.
We just needed to get away and see the sea, and we did that. And then we happened to come across loads of artists, like one in particular as well. Outside the Boscom Arts Depot was a caravan, and there was a sculpture exhibition called the Tinder Games by an artist called Rose Lation. I'm going to tag all of these artists in our episode notes. But the sculptures were amazing. It's just people taking dick pics and talking about Tinder, and it was really sweet and engaging. I've actually bought postcards for all of our patrons, and I'll be sending them out when I get home, which is quite exciting. Should we have another poetry moment? This one is called Shit 90s Films. I like to watch movies from my formative years, even if they're shite, just to feel better, safe, like I'm at home with me ma. In my living room, twiddling the sheepskin rug and smelling the fusty suede, and sparks from the fire hitting the back of my legs. The film's shite, but I'm kind of back home just for a minute. Over. End. I am Superstitious by Rah Petherbridge. Candyman. 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 If you've watched the 1992 film, Candyman, you bet your bollocks I would never say it 5 times in a row. End.
You just did.
Fuck. No, the last line I said, man. I didn't say the C.
Are you sure it sounded like that?
Oh, God. Oh, fuck. He's going to be behind me, isn't he? Oh. Gosh, it scares the crap out of me. But, like, that's like the last poem I had. Sometimes I watch things from my formative years, even if they're bad or scary, because it makes me feel like I'm at home. Or with, like, you know, before I had to adult real hard. I find the grown-up stuff a bit bombarding. And sometimes I just don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Hi, my name is Rowan.
Hi.
In 2015, I made a show about not identifying as disabled. Since then, something has changed, and now I identify as disabled. But what is disability anyway? While searching this show, my iPad stopped working, and the operational message said, iPad is disabled. So I phoned the Apple store, and I said, in which way is my iPad disabled? Mr. James, he said, your iPad has a medical disability. Your iPad is impaired. There is something wrong with your iPad. Please take the device to the nearest Apple store. We'll then be able to restore your iPad to normal capabilities. In extreme cases, your device will be quarantined for its own safety and the safety of other devices. So I took it to the Apple store, and they told me, your iPad is charitably disabled. Your iPad is impaired. Even simple tasks overloaded poor little operating systems. Your iPad needs upgrading. Your iPad needs understanding and sympathy. Your warranty does not cover such action. However, there are Apple-affiliated support groups where it can be complete tasks in line with its potential. So I took it to the Apple-affiliated support group. Your iPad is great. Your iPad is inspirationally disabled. Despite some operational glitches, they should be celebrated and recognised as the key features that make your iPad an inspiration to all tablet devices. So I took it to Microsoft, and they said, your iPad is disabled by society. Your iPad, although working outside normal operational standards, is capable of most tasks. However, the network is not compatible with your device. It will not allow your access to certain prohibited areas. If the network settings can be changed, your iPad will work as desired. iPad experiences disability. Your iPad is a small operational glitch. Your iPad is now classed as having a disability. The network will disable your iPad frequently. Due to company policy, existing structures and procedures, please isolate your iPad as soon as possible by phoning our helpline. Our engineers may see past the glitch, depending on their understanding. In most cases, your iPad will be red taped and recorded as disabled on our system. In extreme cases, your iPad will be ignored and left to die. Anyway.
No.
I rang up an independent engineer. Mr. James, your iPad is culturally disabled. There's nothing really wrong with your iPad. I think you just typed the password incorrectly in 3 times, mate. Wait 30 seconds and it will reset.
Well, that's relatable. Well done. Wow, that's a lot. That's amazing. Have you performed it?
Yeah, it was in my scratch. It was actually been in 2 shows. I don't know what you think when you recycle.
Is that naughty though? I just see it as progressive and patching things over.
You can actually libel yourself. I know it's different for shows, but in like writing essays, you can libel yourself or plagiarise yourself.
It's not plagiarising if it's you.
But if it's been published with another publisher and they own...
That's a little bit naughty.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they own it, and you then put a massive chunk of your work in something else that's basically the same thing you've already published. I think I'm not a publishing lawyer. Did you know that? Yeah. But I thought that was the case. I might be wrong.
So we'll probably just fire into the interview bit.
That wasn't the interview.
No, that wasn't the interview. These are just the 4 questions that we asked. Don't worry.
Is this like in the actor's studio where they have the 4 questions they ask every time?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
What's my favourite sound?
What's your favourite sound? 1 hand clapping. That's it. Rowan, how did your art career start?
Can we call it a career? I don't know what I do. How did it start? Actually, I guess in some ways it started with a scratch show. So
Is this Ipswich?
in Cambridge Junction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'd just left teaching and literally I hadn't even quite left teaching. I was off sick with stress, but it was like the writing was on the wall, and I'd done performance poetry, and I applied to Cambridge Junction, where the amazingly cool Daniel Pitt used to work, and he kind of opened doors for me really after that. He invited me back for a chat. Hannah Walker, who I'd done some work with before. I'd been on one of her residency. She was running, and so she knew me, and she was working affiliated with the Junction at the time, and yeah, it just kind of spiraled, and then.
But you approached the Junction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I went and took a scratch show. And then they liked what I did and had to say, and after the night, Daniel Pitt was like, "What do you want to do with it?" And I was like, "Well, I want to make a full show. I want to take it as much as I can make of it, So yeah, scale it up, and yeah, that's kind of what we did.
And then you've just applied for loads of funding and kept it going in a momentum.
Yeah, sort of. It doesn't feel as hard, isn't it? 'Cause it's just like you end up being dragged into so many different Well, no, I think there are some artists that just do what they do, but that hasn't been for me. I think particularly with poets, like, I was talking to someone else that I met at a party, and we were saying like how it's almost like everything I do uses my skills as a poet, but nothing I do is actually poetry, and that's kind of and everything I do is because of my poetry, and that's where it sort of comes from and got me into this area. But very little of what I do now is actually poetry.
But based in that's your foundations.
Yeah.
Tell me, is there any bits of your career that you found quite challenging or demanding? Or
Loads, most of it.
Rowan!
What do you mean? Have you had it? What? Have you had it easy?
No, shut up.
Yeah, I mean, loads. I mean, it is racked with disappointment, and
what you said earlier when you were like, "Oh, I've done about 20 or 30 applications and I've gotten 2 and they weren't so good." Like, I think.
Well, it's just it's very challenging in terms of like. I've had loads. There's loads of times where you nearly get something, you get shortlisted for a big amount of money, and then COVID happens and they change the way they do the interview and fuck you over, and I'm not there.
I sense none of that.
Yeah, and there's loads of things, loads of disappointment.
So you just have to kind of get accustomed to that.
Unfortunately, I think you have to. I mean, I'm saying you have to have a thick skin because I clearly don't. But you kind of do. It's kind of, these things happen all the time in this industry. Things change. You can have something that feels really secure and it not be, and that happens every day in this industry.
Shit. That probably leads nicely on to the next question, which are, what are your high points? Anything that's brilliant about it? That you love about
this is going to be so,
what?
Corny, because I reckon, most theatre makers will say this, but, yeah, I love it when I'm making. I love the making process. I love rehearsing. I love working with really cool people. I love the writing. I love the fact that I hate it and it's so difficult and it drives me. I love that feeling of trying to find a show that's already feels like you're not actually creating something, you're just trying to find it how it should be. And that's how I've always felt about my work and making it. And it just really, really love it. And it makes me feel really alive. And it's like one of the few times where I do just feel really alive. And it's like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And my heart sings in a way like a cat screaming. But, but it's like, it does. And yeah, I love it.
I suppose that kind of wraps up the final question. What
It's just
keeps
a
you
shame.
doing it?
Well, I don't know. Ask me in 5 years. We'll see.
It's seeing you.
But I, now I'm trying to write a children's book. I've got, been starting a company. Trying to look at doing accessible theatre and music, and looking at vibrations at festivals and stuff like that. So
What does that mean, vibrations at festivals?
well, looking at haptics, dance floors, and looking at haptics for sensory issues, as well as, this is when my brain just confuddles, but this morning with a hangover, and we have to talk about really complicated, intricate things. But but that was just before COVID. I started my company about 2 weeks before COVID.
Smashing.
So where you start a festival orientated stage company, what a great time.
It's
for
fine. It'll all happen. But it sounds like accessible art is a thing, because I know you and me both suffer from sensory overload. If I could go to a festival and know that there was a place I could go that wasn't bombarding me, I would be...
Yeah, I think this is like what we're looking into, and like, obviously, there is definitely uses, and definitely some of the drive of it is, it'd be really useful for people who are deaf or hearing impaired. A lot of the population have hearing impairment issues, but there's other benefits for sensory stuff, other applications. Like, for me, my fascination with vibrations came out of, I find it really hard to put my words with music. The way my brain works, I just can't get it in tune through my transferring what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm feeling it, it's much, much easier for me. And that is where my fascination with vibrations came out of. And I prototyped a tile that you stand on. It's very cool, and it plays music and it vibrates it up you, but also they like it up but also like uses as like for sound, noise pollution, festivals, like you can lower the decibels by a significantly amount that would make a difference for
Amazing.
because obviously it's the bass that carries. The bass is the big problem with noise pollution at live events.
I'm quite impressed by your intuition and gut surrounding how you create art and solving problems and kind of connecting things like that. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the podcast, and also to be a friend for a decade. Yeah, catchphrase. So can you tell the lovely people where they might find out about you and what you're doing?
Keep your eyes peeled and your ears open.
What's your website?
Rowan James Poet.co.uk. That's it really. I mean, we do have a Beatbox website, but I don't really want to put the company website out there because I don't know the address.
Fair enough. But Rowan James, poet.co.uk, is that right?
Yeah.
I've been onto the website. It's got a really good collection of what you've done in the past, and it's pretty cool. Check out some of his past work, and hopefully we'll see more of you in the future. Should we have a little hug? Podcast hug.
It's taking a little microphone over.
It's okay. I've had a lovely time in Bournemouth with you. Hello, I'm back in Hello Darling with George and Dane for another cocktail moment. Dane, you're from Key Drinks, and you're going to do us a really special drink, I believe.
Yes. So with this brand, it's called Padre Azul. This cocktail specifically is only on the Stephen Webster listing at the moment. So you're actually going to try it before they have. Yeah.
This is
We're
really
special.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I've been told I'm allowed to try and make this, so I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah,
with,
please, go
Steph
ahead.
from Hello Darling.
And I'll tell you more about this brand. All right, so Patricia Tequila, they're owned by an Austrian couple. Austrian, his name is Hans-Peter, and his wife, Adriana, she's from Mexico. And they basically fell in love, and they loved tequila so much that they decided to start a company, and they went to Mexico to see how they could make it work, and that's how this brand all came together.
Oh,
Okay, that's such a sweet story. I love that.
But the big thing that's striking about
Such a
this
cool
bottle
bottle.
is it's a bloody work of art, and it's cool. It's fucking rock and roll.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a story behind everything on this as well. So as far as the leather sleeve goes, this comes from the Mexican wrestler tradition of luchadores.
The masks.
Yes, exactly. And then the skull top is from the Day of the Dead rituals, the Dia de los Muertos.
Oh, amazing!
Yes, and then tie those two things together in order to make this wonderful package.
And it just looks like a bougie version of Download Festival.
That's it. That's a very good way of putting it. I love that because I love both of those things. So yes, I was just very taken aback by their boldness to put this package together.
Yeah,
and how they just
Fucking
just-
gutsy.
Yeah, it's a
very
really
gutsy.
cool
It's
thing. It's like a
lovely.
beautiful thing to see behind a bar.
and just all real materials as well, and they skip they
Like
left
the
no
stu-
cost behind.
The
like,
stopper
everything.
has is a skull, but it also has a neck tattoo. I fucking love
does.
it.
It
It's
has
so
a little
great,
bit of
isn't
a
it?
side. But also the weight of everything on this, if you feel like
It's.
the-
Do you know when someone said that about?
It's a
jewelry
really
to
heavy.
once?
It just feels like a really particularly brilliant thing, doesn't
reliably
it?
weighty.
Yeah.
Like nice.
solid art pieces like all the way through, and I like that idea. I like the design. I like the fact that they have metals directly stitched onto the bottle. It's just
Yeah. And if you saw that in a bar, any bar, if I saw that, I'd be like, I want to try that one.
Yeah.
Like straight away. You'd have to.
Sure.
Shall we try it?
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to try and make this. We've got the lovely Padre Azul.
Ooh,
Such a good noise.
sensory pop.
I'm going to make 4, I think.
Oh god, that's a lot. Just bear in mind that it's Monday and I'm a single mother.
Well, we can pretend it's. It's definitely something.
Okay, so is this recipe top secret, or can I tell our listeners what I'm putting in here?
No, you can tell them everything.
Oh, amazing.
Okay, cool. So I'm putting, for each drink, you're obviously going to have to do the maths on your own on this one, because I can't.
We don't need maths.
It's 35 ml of Padre Azul. It's 15 ml of Frangelico, 3 drops of chocolate bitters, 50 ml of espresso, and then you've done it with like a smoked garnish before that we can't do here. Do you want to tell us about that?
Oh, absolutely. So that comes from my staff and teammate, Alex, who is an amazing mixologist. He's the one that you'll, basically, if you visit Stephen Webster, he's the one that will be making our cocktails there. So I had to buy a smoke machine purely just for this one cocktail, because he was just so insistent that we needed a smoke machine for this thing.
He sounds great.
Yeah, he was just one of those guys. I mean, as the business owner, and he approached me and was like, we need a smoke machine. I'm like, that's 140 pounds. It's like, but we need it for one cocktail. Like, yes.
Yeah,
All right. That was the end of the conversation.
I've not done this in a while. I'm out of practice.
Better than me, though.
So we've had an interview with Dane on the podcast before, and you have mentioned that everything that you have in your company is special, which
Yes.
is why you'd get a smoke machine for one cocktail.
Yeah, I suppose that's why it was necessary. Sometimes it can be quite hurtful, but in this occasion, it worked out quite well.
I love it. I love it. I just love the levels that you go to make something that already is great. Just sing it, and it's all about the artistry of it, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why
this
we're here.
already
This
looks
looks
amazing.
amazing.
Like nailed the crema on this one.
Oh,
I'm quite
definitely.
pleased with myself.
Do you know my favourite bottle in the world, traditionally since I was a kid, is the Frangelico?
Oh, cool.
Because it looks like a fucking monk.
It does. They went all out. They have the robe and everything as well. I find it to be hilarious.
It's like, I remember seeing it in the off license when I was a kid. I went there regularly just to hang out.
Yeah, why not?
And it was just like, it stood out to me. It was like, no one ever bought it because it's quite expensive in particular, but like, I just thought it was so beautiful. And that's something that, you know, stuck in my mind forever. That's what this tequila is like. It will stick in a kid's mind forever. Not that you want kids to be drinking booze, but...
Cheers. Well,
you know what I mean.
Padre Azul also has a special way if they do cheers. So what you say is que padre.
Que padre.
There you go.
Que padre.
That's lovely.
It looks like an espresso martini.
It's supposed to have the same kind of feel, but with tequila.
That's delicious.
And the smoothness of this tequila just makes
It's so
everything.
smooth. The bitterness of the coffee is the thing that lifts it. Guys, make this at home if you can. It's
And you need a smoke machine.
And little shout out to Balance on Lower Marsh is where I got the coffee.
Oh, brilliant.
I went in just now. I was like, "Can I get 6 double shots of coffee?" And they were like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "It's not. It's not just for me."
Balance on Lower Marsh are really, really great, and they're always quite kind to us. But this is I really want to fucking down it. That's dangerous, isn't it?
I mean, I've already got
he's
through
done.
mine too quickly.
I love
That's
our
a really
cocktail
lovely
moments. Dean, do you know Dane, sorry. I've been drinking. It's been really nice to share cocktail moments with other people because it is about community, and that's what you're
That's
about.
the point.
Yeah.
And taking time with people specifically that you really like. That's also, you know, branding on Padre Azul. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, cheers again. What was the cheers?
Que padre.
Que padre.
Que padre.
So that was our episode all about being a little bit wired differently in our brains and how it doesn't really matter and we can help each other find ways to cope and drive each other in our careers, and it's so okay.
It's really good. And also, I think I felt a bit accosted on the bus when you were like, "Here are the symptoms." And actually working through it and thinking about it, I was like, these aren't criticisms. They're just facts about how you are. And if finding out those facts about yourself can help you navigate the world, then do that. You know, don't let it make you feel attacked or like you're failing at anything. It's useful to know how your brain works so that you can function better and so you can let other people know what your limitations are.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you've been on jobs and you're like, I don't want to go up the ladder because I'm dyspraxic. That's key information on a job site.
It really is.
You know?
Or like if somebody's in pain a lot, but you can't see their disability, it's like, it's just good to know these things. And sometimes, only sometimes, it's good to be able to chuck that label at somebody and say, will you go and fucking Google that and then come back to me?
And also useful to know what your limitations are. You know, if there's sort of super detailing to be done at work, I'll be like, I'm not going to do that very well.
Hand it to Rah.
Hand it over.
Yeah.
And it means that you become less kind of pressured or...
You feel like you have to be able to be good at everything.
Yeah,
It's
you
like-
can say, oh, that's not my skill set, get that person to do it. And
Yeah.
having those conversations is how you build a team creatively, which is really important.
And we love being on a team.
Love being on a team. Don't like working on my own.
So I'd like to say a big thank you to Rowan James as well. He just recently had heart operation, open heart surgery.
Oh, bless him.
And
Sending all our love.
yeah, we're sending so much love to you, Rowan. I love you so much, and one day I hope we live in the same town again. That has been Artists That Work. It's been really nice to come back. I miss you,
it's
George.
been so nice. It's been a long time. This has been a really special episode. Thank you.
If you want to get in touch with us now, I'd say the best way to do is artiststhatarworking@gmail.com, or go to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/artiststhatwork. And there's lots of different goodies that you can subscribe to.
Yeah, we've taken a bit of time off social media. Rah and I both felt the summer got a bit on top of us. And so we've stepped away from a lot of the stuff that was making us a bit anxious. So we
took the
will be
pressure
back.
off.
We just took the pressure off. And I think all of us need to do that sometimes. I was speaking to a makeup artist the other day who was like, oh, no, I don't go on Instagram anymore. It's giving me a headache. Like, it's driving me mad. And I think it's really important to, if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a step back. We will be back. We will be doing lots of lovely episodes in the lead up to Christmas. And you can always get in touch with us.
We shouldn't say Christmas because we never know when these are going to come out. Never mention the chronological order in this.
I mean, the Christmas episode will come out at Christmas.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Are we that organised? I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
We love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye. I love them more than you, the listeners.
They know that.
They know that. Okay.
I know that.
I sing them to sleep.